Committee of the Whole meeting to order. We'll open up with roll call. City Clerk.
Alderperson Salazar.
She's excused.
Okay. Alderperson Feldy. Present. Alderperson Ackley.
She didn't call at all, so I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Alderperson Decker.
Here.
Alderperson Perella.
Here.
Alderperson Heidemann.
Here.
Alderperson Flicky-Pineski.
Here.
Alderperson Mitchell.
Here.
Alderperson Rust.
Present.
There are 8 present.
Okay, thank you. We'll start out with.
Alderperson Ramey. Thank you.
Okay.
There are 8 present.
Okay, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the Committee of the Whole from October 17th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Those are approved. We have no one for public forum?
No one.
Okay. We'll start right out with item for discussion, possible action. Number 5, resolution number 136-2223 by Alderperson Decker, adopting the City of Sheboygan 2023-2028 strategic plan. We'll start out with Chad.
Thank you, Chair. So I think the consultant, Baker Tilly, who helped put the plan together, is they are online. David or Chris, which one is going to spearhead the presentation?
Chris is going to. Can you hear us, Chad?
Yes, we can. So what's going to happen is Baker Tilly is going to run through a presentation, talk about some of the comments related to the plan that we've received to date, and then hear from the public and the committee as to other comments. I would just say that this is a draft and changes can be made as we go along, but I will let Baker Tilly start with the presentation and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Chad. I'm not able to share my screen, so I wanted to see if someone was able to share the presentation. There it is.
Yes.
Very good. So thank you, everybody, for having us. We'll first dive in just quickly, a quick overview of the agenda. I'll cover the strategic planning process, high-level overview of the stakeholder engagement, the vision, mission, and values, and a high-level overview of the strategic goals and objectives. A copy of the draft plan is in your packet, so for further details, please refer to the draft plan. Next slide, please. And you can even go to the next one. Thank you. So a good strategic planning process addresses the issues and opportunities that an organization faces, and more importantly, those that will challenge it tomorrow. So accordingly, the organizational strategic planning process was an exercise in collect the foresight and work together to clarify what strategic success looks like for the city of Sheboygan long term. The approach used for this project was broken out into 4 phases: define, discover, develop, and deploy. The define phase is a basic general project startup activities. Initial data collection, we identified which stakeholders to engage and the involvement, some initial meetings with project staff, confirming the scope and refining and finalizing the project plan. Discover phase was primarily the data collection phase, which included the development of the stakeholder engagement plan and the completion of the internal and external stakeholder interviews and focus groups. The develop phase encompassed tasks that were needed to create the written document that guide the overall priorities of the organization going forward. And finally, the deploy phase is the final phase, which includes the development of implementation milestones, accountabilities, and various other steps necessary to link the strategic plan to other ongoing city plans and programs. Next slide, please. So one of the first steps in developing a successful strategic plan requires engaging internal and external stakeholders. In this step, we worked closely with the city and the city's project team to design a plan that considered a variety of stakeholder interests and groups within and outside the organization. So the internal stakeholder engagement is when we gathered input from all department heads and elected officials. And during this discussion, we asked targeted questions to identify and understand key organizational and operational, financial, and service delivery, and other issues or concerns relevant to the current state and future strategic direction of the city. Following the conversations with city elected officials and staff, the project team broke down the results to identify common themes that surfaced during the discussions. On your screen, you see the common themes noted here. It was municipal infrastructure, primarily focused on roads and facilities, improvements to the communications with communication and engagement with the public, housing choices, concerns mainly focused around the availability of affordable workforce housing, senior housing, and potential opposition to increased densities. Big focus on economic development and tourism as a major advantage and opportunity for the city. Operational excellence, which focused on the people, process, and technology improvements. And quality of life, which focused on parks, recreations, library, art, and culture. Next slide. So then, switching gears to the external stakeholder engagement, the Baker Tilly team met with various community focus groups, and the results of those conversations provided a variety of common themes about the city. So just as here are some of the major themes, and again, more details provided in your draft plan, but the big takeaways was shopping, restaurants, and downtown. Shopping and restaurants in downtown, there was noted that there's a lack of, one note area, was a lack of shopping opportunities for certain necessities such as clothing and specialty groceries. It was noted that downtown is walkable, but has potential for, it has potential, and but there's more need for parking. Community was another area that was noted. It was noted that it's not always, there was not a consensus to if there's community inclusion. Some people mentioned that there's a strong sense of community, and other people mentioned that it was difficult for new residents to get involved after just moving into the town. Many participants did mention that there is a positive view of the city as it is safe and has a small town Midwestern vibe. And the location is a major strength and can be used as an advantage with its proximity from Milwaukee, Green Bay, etc. Communication, collaboration, and clarification of roles and responsibilities. This one focused on a lot of areas, but many groups wanted more and proactive communication, similar to what the internal stakeholders noted. More proactive communication from the city, and wanted the city to take the lead in beginning collaboration with other local government entities. Businesses and workforce. This generally focused on it was generally agreed upon that workers in manufacturing found it most difficult to find and retain employees and really grow a business in Sheboygan because of that. The large employers recognize that sometimes they are competing with the same talent, and additionally with now remote work, they're finding that some people are choosing to move away. Amenities Another area, people seem to love both the lakefront and other natural amenities surrounding the city. People enjoy the entertainment that is available, but also appreciate if there was more active entertainment rather than just going to a movie or walking through an art gallery. And lastly, housing, similar to what the internal stakeholder engagement focused on, was that there's a reported housing shortage in the city and that it can be difficult to find affordable housing for first-time home buyers. Next slide, please. So next is the vision, mission, and values that were identified during the strategic planning process. An organization's vision is aspirational in nature. It defines what the organization wants to be or to achieve. It idealizes the description, it's an idealized description of the desired future state of the city. The vision statement that was, after the exercise of determining the vision statement, it was identified as the following. Sheboygan embraces a diverse and inclusive community culture, continuously practicing innovative and visionary governance. Next slide. Thank you. Then the next was identifying the mission statement. A mission statement describes the organization's purpose. It defines the business of the organization and its relationships to its customers. A newly updated and more focused mission statement for the organization was identified and is the City of Sheboygan is committed to creating and maintaining a place of welcoming and belonging for all that live, work, and play in our great community. And the last piece is values. Values are the fundamental principles that guide how members of the organization conduct themselves in pursuit of the mission and vision of the organization. Together, values provide an ethical framework for decision-making and actions. The city's values are service, teamwork, accountability, innovation, respect, and stewardship, which also stands for STAIRS. And please refer to the strategic plan document for more details on what each of those are defined as. And then lastly, the goals and objectives piece. After systematically scanning the external environment, evaluating the strengths and weaknesses of the organization, identifying opportunities and threats, and confirming the organization's vision, mission, and values, the focus of the strategic planning project turned to the identification of goals likely to have the greatest positive impact on the organization. The city identified the following strategic goals. First, advance organizational culture. An organization's culture defines the way to behave within the organization. This culture consists of shared beliefs and values established by leaders and then communicated and reinforced through various methods, ultimately shaping employee ideals, behaviors, and understanding. The City of Sheboygan is dedicated to embracing the organizational culture that is based on welcoming and belonging. The objectives identified and included within this goal are invest in employee development, continue to recruit and hire and retain employees, develop and implement a robust DEI program, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and empower employees and improve collaboration with them. The next goal is embrace continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is an ongoing effort focused on practices, services, or processes through incremental and breakthrough improvements. It's important to the city to actively integrate innovative measures to bring better value and service to the community. As you see on the screen, the objectives included in this goal are develop an ongoing operational evaluation program, improve internal and external communications, and enhance the facility improvement planning program. The third goal, elevate community alliances and quality of life. Engaging in building alliances within the community is essential to providing an effective public service and fostering a high quality of life. This effort aims to elevate community engagement by closely working with community groups. And the objectives included here were enhance community relationships and engagement practices, embrace community recreational, social, and leisure offerings, and embrace intergovernmental and business collaborations. And the fourth goal is promote sustainable growth. Promote sustainable growth, the definition of this goal is the desire to grow and expand as a city must come with a balance. This strategy seeks to promote sustainable expansion and growth to meet the needs of today without compromising the quality of life for future generations. By making sustainable investments for the future of the city will improve and bring further opportunities. And again, as you can see on the screen, the objectives included with this goal is embrace economic development, embrace future expansion, and encourage housing opportunities. So that concludes my presentation. Again, please refer to the draft plan in your meeting packet for more details, which is also where you can find the individual initiatives, kind of the action items associated with the each goal. So I'll turn it back over to Chad.
Okay, thank you. I guess we'll start out with anyone that wants to have any questions or anything like that. Chad, do you want to bring something forward before we start out with that?
At this stage, no. I'll wait to hear from the alderpersons. I've talked to a number of you the last few days, so I would open it up to further dialogue from the alderpersons.
Okay, first up, Alder Perella.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a general comment and then a few specific comments. One general one is that I find this strategic plan a little light. It's not really solid to me, in the way that goals are identified, and most of all in aspects of implementability and accountability. I think it lacks more specifics on who does what, and also, most importantly, how do we measure progress? What are we measuring? What is the goal that, for example, in a year we are going to check upon? What do we expect? So it lacks the practical aspect, and most importantly to me, at least, the accountability part. Who is going to own the piece? Who is going to do what? So this is these are just general comments. So it would need to, of course, be. The practical aspects and the change needs to be identified, but altogether, I don't see it as a very practical tool at this point.
Thank you. Anything else on there? We got Alder Heidemann.
Thank you, Chairman.
Oh, man.
This is my second go-around with the strategic plan. We have the old plan that we put together, and this plan, Chad, what would you say it cost us to do the first 5-year plan?
Oh,
You did it all in.
You did it all in-house, okay. This plan, okay, cost $100 and some thousand. Okay, nowhere in this plan does it said that anything that we put in this plan was achieved. There's absolutely nothing in this plan that, and I've sent this to some of my constituents, and they sent back, what they talked to me was, what plan is this? This other plan had bike paths, all kinds of stuff that citizens could actually look at and say, this is what's going to happen in my community. You look at this plan, and it's got nothing. All right? He did skip over one page, and that's the SWOT page. And in there, it had the young and new council members as an opportunity. almost every person I talked to about it that read this said that this was age discrimination, and how would a common council adopt a document?
That on this common council, there are 6 women, 4 men, and there is representation from every decade. So we have a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, a 60-year-old, and a 70-year-old. And I think that's pretty indicative of who lives in this community. Now, having said that, I want to kind of double bunk on what Alder Perella said. It feels a little light, and that's one way of saying it. I'm into measurable goals, and it is hard for me to measure embrace, which is mentioned twice as a goal. It's hard for me to measure encourage, which is mentioned as a goal. So I am concerned about adopting this, and I think it needs to have more work. I think they defined what was happening with the stakeholders. They discovered things by interviewing people. I'm not sure that the development of the tasks were up to my standards. And the implementation and the milestones, as I've mentioned, I don't think are measurable. So I have a difficulty moving this on, and would rather move it back to the folks who originally put the draft together and say, good first draft, keep going.
Okay, thank you. Let's see who's, Chad, go ahead.
So thank you for those comments. So the consultant is online. As Alder Heidemann has stated, the city did pay $140,000 for this plan, and honestly, I think I would like to hear from them as to some of their concerns. One thing I will say is that, in full disclosure, this is a city strategic plan. This is not a Department of Planning and Development or a Chad Pelishek plan. I graciously agreed to try to help spearhead and get the right people to the table and kind of move this forward. And I feel like some of this is falling on my shoulders, which, we have a consultant that's online that needs to help kind of direct this conversation as well. And this is a plan for the city and for the setting the direction for the future. It's not just one department's plan.
Do we have the gentleman online? Does he have some? Oh, there we go.
Certainly, there are 2 of us here. Let me, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Great, thank you. Let me first begin by thank you. We appreciate the candor, the comments, and we will take all of these under advisement. As Chad noted at the beginning, this is a draft. The other thing that I think is important to convey, with the lack of some of the specificity that you feel is lacking, I don't disagree. There are several documents that back this up. Particularly, there's more detail around the details of the community engagement, and there is an actual implementation plan that does fix accountability by name and target dates for completion, those kinds of tools for monitoring and accountability. And we can certainly add those to this document as appendices, so that those things will not get lost. Chris, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that covered it.
But we hear you and agree that that there's a couple of things not solid enough, a little bit light. I'm not pushing back against that. Again, I think there is more detail that just wasn't included in the document, but we can make this better.
Okay, well, thank you, David. Because I agree. I think it needs to be something that's got a roadmap, and this doesn't seem to be a roadmap to me at all at this point right now. If I followed this, I wouldn't make it out of town. Alder Rust.
Thank you, Chair. I have to agree with Alder Heidemann that this is a lot of pretty words, and Alder Mitchell and I were looking at an older version of the same document, and we're a little confused as to why the mission statement changed in the one that from 2017 to 2021. It states the City of Sheboygan is dedicated to providing residents, the business community, and visitors with fiscally responsible municipal services in an effective and responsive manner to meet the needs of our diverse community. Our new one says nothing about being fiscally responsible. It lacks that mission right there. And like Alder Filippi-Pineski said, it's a good first draft, but if this is going to keep costing us $140,000 every draft, I'd rather keep it in-house at that point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With respect to the mission statement, we took the department directors in one of their workshops where we went through both the statements of mission and vision, did some activities, some exercises, and to look for key concepts and literally words to be included, updated vision and mission statements, and then drafted those, and that went through some internal review, and those were the drafts that were settled on. Again, we want the mission and the vision to be those that the board, the aldermen, expect to see. And so again, I'll make note. We'll take those under advisement as we move forward.
Director Perlchik.
Mr. Chair, we advertise this as a public meeting, and we're interested in hearing from the public, and there is some public in the audience. So if the committee of the whole is interested, it would be nice to hear if anybody has any follow-up comments from the floor. And then I have some additional comments after that.
Great. Sounds good. If there is anyone that wishes to speak, if you come forward to the microphone, please state your name and your address. Please keep your comments brief, and please be respectful. Go ahead. Oh, excuse me. Hold on 1 second.
Stu Stampenhar, Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Okay.
5841 Sherwood Drive.
Okay.
I too have a little bit of problem with the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement. I find that a bit discriminatory, and I would like those words removed. I think it should be based on merit, regardless of race, gender, or religion, something along that line. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Alder Filippi-Pineski. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to hold you off of then. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Jordan Michael Cruz-Leibau. I'm on 409 Wisconsin Avenue.
Okay.
Honestly, I've never gone to a meeting like this, so it's very interesting. But if I'm going to be quite honest, and no offense to the people that made that, but it did feel so empty. That was the most sort of bland presentation I've seen in a minute. And I feel like if we're talking about the city of Sheboygan, we really need to talk about the city of Sheboygan. They said that they interviewed so many people and everything, and I believe them, but I want to know, what are the people of the city really looking for? And that, to me, didn't really tell me much. It felt like it could really fit any city, not just Sheboygan. And I guess, yeah, I kind of agree with most of y'all, so.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to be heard?
Hi, my name is Annette Chittister Woods. I live at 819 Lincoln Avenue. I moved here a year ago. And this is the first common council meeting that I've heard about. Sorry about the sunglasses, I had an eye procedure today. I too am more interested in what my new city offers me. I have no idea. I remember in June I saw on the sign at Fountain Park that I could take a citizen survey. Does that ring a bell? I think I took it. What were the results of that? And does that apply to this? Also, I find that a whole heck of a lot of money of mine that you spent on something I could have done better at with a cut and paste template on the internet. So 819 Lincoln Avenue, if you want to interview someone new to the neighborhood, I'm not sure if any of these people got a survey in the mail. Nobody called me, nobody emailed me, nobody told me that there was a strategic plan consideration happening. And I follow almost all y'all on Facebook, so step it up. I'd also like to remind you that our school system is number something like 285 out of 315 in the state. So I don't know if that applies to this, but it should. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard? Anyone else in the audience wishing to be heard at all? Any other comments? Roberta, you had one before. Did you want to?
Oops, thank you.
On the point about the citizen survey, yes, there was a citizen survey taken. Chris, remind me what the turnout for that. It was close to 1,000, I believe.
It was close to 2,000.
Right. And as I mentioned in my earlier response, we do have those detailed results and can and will include those as an appendix in the next version. So that can be readily made available.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Roberta.
Thank you. I'd just like a clarification. When you were working with the internal group, you rewrote the vision and you rewrote the mission. Is that accurate?
Yes, we did rework those. We did.
Okay. And the values were in place before and those did not change. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am, that is accurate.
Thank you.
Alder Mitchell.
Thank you, Chair. So I have quite a few pages in my notebook filled out. I'm not going to go through every single comment that I have right now. It sounds to me like there's consensus that we're at least seeing a framework for what the final plan should look like, but at least from what I've been hearing, it seems as though the council or committee believes we have a little bit more work to do. What would be, and I guess I don't really know who I'm asking. What's on my mind right now is what the best way to move forward in the process is. I'm assuming we don't want to send this to council based on comments I've heard. Would we look to keep it in committee?
Go ahead.
If I can make a suggestion, so I think this is a core area of the city administrator role, and we do not have a city administrator at this stage. When we started this plan, there was a city administrator who was helping kind of guide the process. You know, we know what happened with that, but I think, you know, part of me is, you know, we can try to update this plan with internal staff and get it to a point where people agree, hire a new city administrator, he or she comes in, has to live with what there is and move forward and implement it, or put this on hold until a city administrator is hired and try to work through with him or her to get to a plan that they're willing to support and implement, because a lot of this stuff in the plan is going to have to be driven and overseen by the city administrator, because it's all departmental focused. So, you know, I think those are some of the things that the committee of the whole needs to take into consideration. I hate to kick the can down the road, but you know, I think without having the city administrator here to, you know, have support and be able to move this forward, it's being we're kind of in a weird spot of the planning process. You know, I think we could work with the consultant to get it to where it needs to be. I'm optimistic we're going to get there, but you know, I think not having the person that's actually going to implement this at the table with us is going to be challenging.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. So where do we go from here? Do we want to move forward with a resolution of any kind? Go ahead, Roberta.
Thank you. What I heard one of our consultants say clearly is, we could provide that, we can do that. We heard you that it's a little bit light. I would suggest that we give it back to the consultants at this point in time, see what draft number 2 looks like, and then I'm pretty empathetic with Chad's observation that this is basically an administrative document, and right now we don't have a city administrator. So I'd say let's give it back to the consultants, let them do their magic again, and provide more data for us, and we can bring it back to the committee of the whole again and then determine what to do.
Okay. Alder Mitchell.
Thank you. I would wholeheartedly agree with my colleague on the other end. Looking at the prior plan, the layers that add to it. So we had some of the words are used interchangeably between the prior one and the current one, so I'm just going to number them. The top layer, the category, so quality of life.
Are you looking for the terminology we use, sir? Excuse me.
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
I just am making sure I understand your question. With the hierarchy of material in there is a goal at the highest level, followed by objectives, supported by initiatives, which you did not see in our presentation tonight, the action steps. Is that what you're trying to get at?
I guess that's what we're missing.
That is where I was going to go with this, is the old plan had quite a bit of what I think some others have mentioned of those tangible milestone, here's what's actually going to be done to reach the goals that we've stated. And it does make a lot of sense to me that having that city administrator who oversees this plan be involved in the process of generating those items specifically for Sheboygan, it would be the best way forward on this one. So I would be happy to receive any other information that we have available, but I also would completely support putting this one on hold until we're in the position to make sure that we can create the best plan possible, because we're looking at 5 years worth of guidance for the city. It's not something that we want to rush because we created a deadline.
Let's see, Alder, let's see, Ramey's there. First one, okay. Alder Feldy. Whoop, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to go right back to the very beginning of all the questions and comments when Alder Pirelli said that there wasn't meat in this and there's no objectives to, okay, we've got this and this is what we need to do to get to there. And I see nothing in there that's going to tell anybody, any department chair, council member, anyone on, how are we going to achieve that goal? That's it.
Alder Amy, I already hit your button, so you're good to go. Sorry.
Thank you, and I'm losing my voice, so I'm sorry. I just want to agree with what everyone else has been saying up here, but I also am hearing from the community as well that we definitely need to work harder on getting the messaging out where we can receive information from the community. So if we do put a pin in this, I would like to entertain us doing yet another survey or another, maybe a town hall or something else, and we find a way to really get that word out so we can hear from as many people in the community as possible. I think 2,000 is great, but I think we could hear from a lot more. So yeah, those are my 2 cents.
Okay. Director Pelichick.
Just to answer the last question, so the public input, we spent about $7,500 of billboards, advertising, electronic signs, everything in church bulletins, direct mailings. So we hit the pavement really hard and tried to get it in front of everybody we could through the nonprofit networks and everything to get people to take the survey. The 2,000 or so is the largest the city has ever seen on any surveys that had been even taken prior. So it doesn't sound like a lot when there's 50,000 people in the community, but it's the highest number of surveys that have ever been taken. So, some of it is the responsibility of our citizens to be engaged and be, involved with the process as well. But, there was and then we had focus groups and there was interviews with all the alderpersons and all the staff people and there was staff focus groups. So there was a lot of public engagement. And I think that, I honestly believe the public engagement and kind of what people want to see is there. We just now have to dig into that and build a little bit more structure and concrete stuff to bring into the plan to kind of fill in some of the gaps that a number of you have identified. The other thing I just want to mention is there is a matrix that was a standalone document that lists the accountabilities, who's responsible, the time frame for completing them. I can share that with the group, with the council after that. I've asked the consultant that I think that needs to be integrated into the plan versus a standalone document so that the general public can just see that there is accountability and there is action steps and there's an implementation plan put together. It's just that at this point it was going to be a standalone document, but it doesn't hurt that it's involved in there so people can see it and we can be held accountable for our actions.
Thank you, Director Pelichick. Yeah, I agree. That's what I think is missing out of this document, but for sure is the the way what's the implementation? What are our goals? Where are we going? When are we hitting these things? After a year, what is it going to look like? What's it going to look like in 2 years? That's when I think we really need to have in this document. Alder Amy.
Thank you, Director Pelichick. This was implemented before I was on Common Council, so I really appreciate hearing that history, and I have nothing but empathy and understanding of trying to get words out to people. So would it be something if we do put a pin in it for a little bit? I still think that maybe in the district level, us as alders could maybe contribute to that information gathering a little bit, so it's more personal. Yeah, I love we did the big trying to get all the word out. I understand that. I'm just saying for my responsibility as an alder, I think that we could maybe in each of our districts have a town hall or something like that and get those informations, maybe have a sample of some of those questions that were asked and take that time and then deliver those results to y'all.
Go ahead. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the alders and the members of the public for contributing to this document as well, too. Obviously, this is a very important document that will guide the city in the next few years for our community. So every input, every consideration really helps build this document stronger. So definitely echoing what Alder Ramey said too. I mean, please continue to reach out to your constituents, businesses, community organizations. The more folks we get, the stronger this document becomes. Send it to us. Chad and I have been getting emails as well, and we've been sharing those with the consultants. And those will help us guide to this direction to make this document stronger as well. So just want to say thank you, and also just recognize the good work that our staff has been doing behind the scenes, kind of collecting this and structuring it as we've been moving forward. Carrie too has been helping facilitate a lot of outreach and building up for this project too, and communicating with the team as well as Chad and Chad's team as well. So just wanted to give some kudos to the team as well, and we'll keep moving forward on this, working with our friends at Baker Tilly too. So.
Director?
Sorry, this is my last comment.
That's fine.
I think if the alder persons have comments and you have 4 pages, just scan them in and email them over to us so we can share them. And if anybody else receives any comments, forward it on to us and we'll get it off to the consultant so we can get it kind of stamped in place and understand what we're dealing with. If the committee of the whole decides to hold this till a new city administrator is in place, I would hope that this could be referred to the new council, because the council's reorganizing in April, and I wouldn't want this to get terminated at the end of the council year, because it's a very important thing that we need to move forward. So I would look to the city attorney as to how we handle making sure that this doesn't die at the end of this council year.
So you really have 2 options as to what you can do next. One is you can recommend filing this particular document, but with instructions that a new one needs to come back. And then depending on the timing of that, you may or may not have to do anything as far as to the next council, because if another one doesn't come back until the new council, you won't have to have worried about that. You can also hold the document in committee, but assuming committee of the whole isn't going to meet again before the end of the council year, now would probably be the time to refer it to the committee of the whole of the new common council. I don't know whether that's the case or not, but that would be your other option. The difference between the 2 options is this: if you hold it and refer to the next committee, you're still holding the particular document that came. If you file it, that document is gone, but it doesn't necessarily, you would want to include instructions to receive a new draft if you were to do that. So it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, your choice.
Well, the document won't really be the same document anyways. It'll be because we're asking for it to be changed. So I would think that we would be better off filing, I think, because we're going to get a new document. I mean, this document, from the comments I'm hearing, no one's real happy with this document the way it is. So we want a new document anyways. So that's my thought.
Just if you file, don't just file, because that throws it away totally. If you file, make sure that you file and take another action, which might be file the document and direct somebody to, whether it's Chad or somebody else, to work with Baker Tilly to come up with a second draft.
Okay. Alder Flickipaneski.
Oh, I was just thinking, I don't want to kill what we already have. I mean, I can't, Baker Tilly has done some background work, so I would not be in favor of filing. I would be in favor of recommending it to a new council. I think Baker Tilly has heard what we want to have. They've got a document. We've seen that document. We're going to see more addenda and more data in the document. So I would be in favor of moving it to the next common council, the committee of the whole.
But they can use this document in creating the next document. It really doesn't matter. It's just because you're creating a new document. I mean, just because it's going to be a totally different document anyways. It's not going to be this document. So I guess it doesn't matter either way. I'm okay with it. Go ahead.
The other thing to note is if there's another draft, you have to get it to committee of the whole somehow.
Okay.
So if another draft comes in, it's not like it's going to be magically in front of you. It would come to common council and get referred to committee of the whole, and you would have now two documents in front of you. There may be some benefit to that, but that's what you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I see the mayor smiling back, does he have any thoughts on this at all? We should, okay. Okay. Alder Mitchell.
I have about 90% of a motion. My question is who it would be most appropriate for the committee to direct along with a motion to file. We've already talked about waiting for a city administrator. That would be the individual, I would imagine, that under other circumstances, we would be directing to take it back and bring the revised document to council. I don't want to keep or put the whole thing on Chad or his department either, because like it was mentioned, this is a citywide document. So if anybody has any insights on that portion, I'm assuming I can't make a motion that's open-ended saying whoever is best suited is directed to XYZ.
Okay, go ahead, or Alder Flicky-Maneski.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Alder Perella.
I see this as a main function of the administrative department. So I would be in favor of referring to or deferring to when we will have a new administrator. And I'm not as much concerned with the new common council because it doesn't really matter. We are here to represent at any time. So if it happens that we can vote on it again before a new council, I would be happy with that. But if it happens afterwards, that would be the right thing anyway. So I don't really mind that aspect. I rather think that someone has to be accountable. And as, in fact, Director Pelishek said, I agree with that. No specific department is responsible for it. So only the office of the administrator could be responsible for it. And I don't know if this answer in part to my colleague's question or not.
Well, I'm looking for, then I guess, a motion to direct it, to file and direct to the next, after we hire a new administrator. Is that the correct terminology, Chuck, or?
Well, that depends on what it is exactly that you want to do. I think Alder Mitchell is correct. He's got 90% of it down, and it's just that the question is, who is it that you direct? You don't have a city administrator, so you can't really direct some future potential city administrator to do it.
Okay.
You could direct the administrative department, which, kind of puts it on Kerry. I don't know whether you really want to do that.
No, we don't want to do that either. We're not.
You could direct the mayor, except you really can't direct the mayor. You can only sort of ask him.
Okay, well, I'll go with Alder Flicky-Maneski first.
Thank you. Attorney Adams, you gave us two options. One was to file, one was to hold. Of the two options, which is the most elegant option?
The most elegant is probably to file, because it tells you what you think, that you don't believe this is the draft you're going to adopt, and it gives the opportunity for a new draft to come in through that process.
Does our motion have to include and we direct Baker Tilly to bring us back a second?
It doesn't have to. The concern that I would potentially have, although you have some control over this as time goes on, is if you don't direct anybody to do it, who knows whether it will come back, right? Now, maybe it will, and maybe the people will take care of that, but then you haven't spoken on that issue, and it would be hard to hold you. A number of you have used the word accountability appropriately. You would not be holding anybody accountable to do it, and if nothing happened, nothing would happen. Now, perhaps you hold yourself accountable to come back and just check on it every so often, but that's, if you just file it and do nothing, there is at least that potential that it's just gone.
If we hold it, does it come out of a holding pattern?
If you hold it, it stays in committee until the committee is dissolved, which, I don't know, again, whether there's a plan for this committee of the whole to meet again before the end of the Common Council year. So you're probably going to, if you don't adjourn sine die, which I don't think is on the agenda, it sort of still kind of happens at the end of the year, and the document would go away unless you refer it to the next Common Council. The reason why that is not as elegant of a solution
It's not.
is because you still have the document you don't like as the document. That's the document that you're dealing with.
Okay. So we should move to file
With instructions.
with instructions to return it to the committee of the whole? No.
If you file it, the document itself is gone. And then the question is, what additional action will you take to ensure that another draft comes?
Can we instruct Baker Tilly to bring back a second document in April?
You can instruct them to do that. We would get into what is the contract and all that say, but
You sound just like a lawyer.
I guess I resemble that remark.
Yes.
Okay. Alder Perella.
Would you mind, please, to expand on why we cannot file and with instructions of postponing on the basis of our the vacancy of the administrator?
You can simply file. The issue is going to be then if you file and do nothing else, whether it's direct somebody to come back with another draft. Basically, what you've done is you've killed it, and you could at some later date come back once you've hired a new city administrator and direct them to do that. You could in the new. I know that there is a group that's working on a new job description for an administrator. What does the ordinance say? You could come later with some sort of ordinance that basically says part of the role of the city administrator is that every 5 years they must provide a strategic plan. Those are things that you could do. Those aren't on the agenda today, so you really couldn't do a standalone document like that. But you could file and just make sure that you take the accountability to come back to do something and get something on the agenda to approve that. That you could do.
Thank you. And I don't see why we cannot do that.
Alder Mitchell's got a comment, I think, if I
I don't know what you
jump
asked.
in there. Is he? There you go. I'm taking it. I have too many open. Okay, there you go. Okay, there you go, Trey.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to work my way through this, and on admonishment to the city attorney, I will stop, but I'll move to file this document and request that Baker Tilly work with elected and appointed city management and administration to bring an updated document to the 2023-2024 Common Council, and with the intention of the 2023-2024 Common Council bringing a resolution back to the Committee of the Whole at a bare minimum for discussion regarding a future strategic plan if no document is provided.
Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Alder Heidemann.
Thank you, Chairman. What's the cost going to be for the redraft? I mean, we've already spent $140,000, I guess. I lowballed it at 117. I'm sorry, but we spend $140,000 for a document we don't want. So what are the guarantees that we're going to, we give them the information. Well, what is that going to cost the city of Sheboygan? Because I know for a fact I was involved with a plan. The first plan, it didn't cost us hardly anything. So I just kind of like, I don't mind filing this document. Okay, I'll vote in favor of that, but I just wonder, what is the cost associated with getting the new plan? Nothing. Well, we're paying nothing. I'm all for that.
This is part of the process, and the consultant is online, but I honestly believe that we've exhausted our purchase order that's out there for this project. So at this point, unless the council dedicates more funding to it, the consultant is going to have to do the revisions and get us a plan that's acceptable because they haven't fulfilled their contract.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you. So this would go under the contract then, is what you're saying, Chad? This should, okay. All righty. Any other comments on this? Shall we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye also. That ends that discussion. Okay. That exhausted our agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I couldn't understand.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Hey.